start our lesson, and our lesson is a bit unusual, though you're quite used to this procedure. So today we are going to discuss the book that we have read. Which book have we read?
Jane Eyre.
Jane Eyre. And who is the author? So are we going to discuss the whole of the book or only part of the book?
We're going to discuss only part of the book.
Which one?
The first chapter.
The first chapter, that's it. Quite right. So, and we are going to use the technique which is known as reading circles. We are going to organize kind of a reading circle club. So will you please look at the blackboard, look at the slide. So why do we use reading circles?
Because during our lessons of reading circles, we can feel the atmosphere of teamwork. It helps us to discuss books of English-speaking writers, and also everybody gets involved.
Gets involved, right. So look at the slide again, and you know, and you got badges with the different tasks. Now, so let us discuss the role of each of you. So, what about discussion leaders?
Yulia and I, we are discussion leaders. We guide the discussion, ask questions, and make sure that everyone has a chance to speak.
Okay, you and Yulia, raise your hand. Show us the discussion leader, another discussion leader. Good. So, who summarizes?
Anton and I were summarizers. So we will tell the story in a short summary in our own words, and we'll remind the continuing of the story to the book.
The contents, you mean?
The contents.
The contents. That's it. Quite right. Anton, say hello.
Hello.
Hello. So the next.
Tom and I are connectors. Our job is to make notes about at least two possible connections, connections to our own experience or to experience of our friends and family.
Great. Now, the next group of people.
I'm a work master. My job is to choose 5 words and explain to my group why they are so important.
That's it. So, as I have already said, we've got only one word master. So, but you are just precious. Then the next.
Natasha and I are passage persons. Our job to find 3 passages that are important for the plot. And explain or that explain the characters or characters or that have very interesting or powerful language.
That's it. Quite right. Last but not the least is.
I'm the culture collector. My job is to find the differences and similarities between our own culture and the culture found in the story.
That's it. So thank you. So we have introduced the idea of reading circles. Are we ready to start the discussion?
Yes.
I'll again repeat a very important idea. So this technique helps all of you to get involved in the discussion, because each of you has his or her own role. So I wish you success. I'm going to step aside. Take your seats and start the discussion. Thank you.
So we just read first chapter, just called The Red Room, and let us confirm to bring us up to date and to give us a short summary, please.
Today I'm going to tell you about main characters of this story and a little summary. The main characters are Jane Eyre, the main character, Bessie, the nursemaid, John Reed, Georgina Reed, and Eliza Reed are Jane's cousins. And Mrs. Reed is called the story.
The story in brief is as follows. The scene is laid in England in the beginning of the 19th century. The main character is Jane Eyre, an orphan girl of 9. She lives with the family of her uncle's wife. Her uncle is dead, and his wife with their children always treat her cruelly. Her life is a real hell. She hates her relatives, and they always punished her. One day, John Reed, her cousin, starts a quarrel and a fight with her, putting blame on Jane. And she is punished and put in the Red Room where her uncle is dead. She was quite afraid of her uncle's spirit, so she suffers a lot. She has a breakdown and falls ill.
Thank you, Dasha. What can you say about the character of Jane Eyre?
I can say that in this book, Charlotte Bronte presented us a character of
Well, first of all, Jane Eyre wanted to join the family circle, but her aunt refused. Have you ever faced the same situation, Pasha?
I can say that I'm very lucky, and I have never faced such a situation in my life.
Well, it's very good. I think we're all lucky person. We haven't had such situation.
Well, John Reed was a very unpleasant and very greedy boy. Let's remember the way he spoke with Jane about his books. Have you ever met such kind of man, or have you ever behaved yourself the same way? Anton?
No, I never seen such cruel man in my life, and I don't think that there are many such people in the world.
I think that it was a question especially for boys because they always get into terrible fights and bully other children.
It's not in terrible, but in fights. I think my last question is the fight between Jane and John Reed. Dasha, will you answer, please?
Can you repeat? Who is responsible for the fight between John and Jane?
It was possible her cousin that he wanted to bully her and punished her.
Okay, as I know you're a watermaster.
Yes.
What have you found?
I found 5 books. They are Eyes Called Fingers and Toes, To Join the Family Circle, To Bully a Bully, To Starve Oneself to Death, and the last word combination is I must to find it.
I'm sorry, what does it mean to starve oneself to death?
It means to stop eating as a way of committing a suicide.
Okay, and what does it mean I must have fainted?
It means not to feel anything. I chose this word because it tells us about Jane's reaction to the family's cruelty. It was better to her to escape from reality at that moment. And also it's interesting that we, in this word combination, we use modal verb must plus perfect definite, and it's interesting for the grammar.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to give the floor to Vlad. He's our passage person.
Yes, I found 3 passages. First passage on page 1, line 1. Please, Sasha, read it. It's, I think, this passage is an introduction to the whole story. It shows the cold atmosphere of the family, not only cold weather. Nikita, why didn't Jay love long walks?
Because sometimes it was cold, so I think that's why she didn't like long walks with her relatives. She didn't like them.
Okay, Lёша, why did she feel different from her cousins?
She was feel different from her cousins because the aunt, as we can see here, it is she was as her mom. She always treats them quite softly, and with her she was always rude.
Okay, next important passage on page number 4. It describes the red room and explains why Jane was afraid to go there.
Это page 2, line 22 to 28.
22? Okay.
I choose this passage because it is a good description of John. And question, have you ever met such person like John Reed?
I thought that we answered this question, but we said that we all lucky people that we have never met such kind of a man in our lives. I hope. Yes.
Anyway, the story is true to life because a lot of people all over the world adopt children, but I don't think that they have the same problems, the same situation as Jane have. The relations are not so fierce, so cruel. What do you think? Passion.
Yes, I totally agree with you. Entirely agree with you.
Then?
And can you repeat the questions? I didn't understand it properly.
What was the problem in Jane's family?
Yes, I now understand you.
What was the reason?
It's rather obvious that the problems that was shown in this story bring us to the theme of the unhappy children, and still these problems are very acute nowadays.
Yes, I can agree with you. So, and let's pass to your job, to your task.
Of course, I'll read a little passage from this chapter. John Reed lifted a heavy book and threw it hard at me. It hit me and I fell, cutting my head on the door. As we see, such problems as bullying children was quite a usual thing in the 19th century. But do we face these problems nowadays?
Between children in a family?
Maybe it's bullying in the class.
Yes, I knew such terrible accidents in some families and in some schools when children fight each other when they want something. For example, elder brother beats his little brother, or
So now I'd like to tell you a story from my own experience. It's a story about a boy who had the same problem in his family. He was a stepson, so it was really hard to live in a step family because he was treated badly, and his brother bullied him, and even his mother beat at him. So I think it's a rather good connection between the story and between the real world.
I think this problem exists nowadays.
Yes, and it's a really hard problem.
And do you think that bullying children was quite a usual thing in the 19th century?
Yes, I think that in England it was everywhere, in schools, in house. It was a way of growing up.
And did you read about such problems in other books? For example, in David Copperfield.
Yes, I've read about it in David Copperfield. His father even sent him to work at the
factory.
Yes, at the factory. So I think it is really cruel to send a little boy to work in a factory.
And in fact, his stepfather beat him, and he was bullied at school.
Yeah, I know it. It's awful.
Do you think that
Maybe the main.
what makes you feel sad in this story, Alyosha?
I think the most awful thing in this book is that Jean always was alone, and nobody wants to support her. She walked through the life and she was looking for her, how to say, the love. She was looking for her love, and she was looking for the person who could support her in her life.
With great pleasure. Jane Eyre, you'll stay there no longer as a punishment for trying to deceive us. Oh, no, aunt, please forgive me, I can't bear it. I shall die if you keep me there. I screamed and kicked as she held me. Silence, control yourself. She pushed me, resisting wildly, back to the red room and locked me in. Do you think, what's your opinion? Is this such a punishment acceptable or not? Express your opinion, please.
There are a lot of families, and some of them put the children in the corner as a punishment, yes. But I don't think that this punishment is really acceptable. Maybe parents think that it's kind of upbringing, they treat their children like that. But it's not really acceptable because children stop to respect their parents, maybe.
Actually, this situation is true to life in our society. You know, there's various kinds of persons that have their own vision of the way they should bring up their children. And you know this, that they locked Jane in red room, not the worst variant. Situations when parents lock their children, for example, at the balconies also exist.
I think it is the end of our discussion. Thanks very much, all of you. I think it was very interesting to discuss Jane Eyre.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you a lot for your work, for your attention. We finally came to the conclusion. So thank you for your job. Thank you for listening.
At the end of our discussion, I think both teams are ready. Unfortunately, so as I've already said, so one member is missing here and one member is missing here, but nevertheless the discussion was rather heated. So I've got a couple of questions for you, just relax. I've got a couple of questions. Are you satisfied with the role that you have played today, or would you like to change the role? You know, this is a procedure that every time we choose some other role, but this time exactly. For instance, Pasha, were you satisfied with the role of the culture collector? Do you find it easy or difficult, or would you like to try something different?
I think that my role was rather easy, and I gained much experience while I was working as a culture collector.
That's it. But which role would you like to play next time?
Maybe I think that it would be very good if I play the role of the discussion leader.
Of a discussion leader. Right, you are. Quite right. What about you, Dasha? Are you satisfied with your role?
Yes, of course, I am satisfied with my role. It was very interesting for me. But in the next situation, in the next discussion, I'd like to be a passage person.
A passage person. Quite right. And on the contrary, let us ask the passage person, Vlad, what about you? Which role would you like to play next time?
I would like to play passage person again. I think it's the best job and very easy.
And very easy. Do you like it because it is easy?
Of course.
Of course. That's it. Toma, what about you? Are you satisfied with the role that you played today?
I'm quite satisfied with the role I've played because the connector, it's not very hard to be a connector, but it's very interesting. You should think about problems you come up with in your daily life, and this role is good because you've got a possibility to speak, to discuss your questions with your team.
But everybody has a chance to speak on this situation. Natasha, are you satisfied with your role, or would you like to do something different next time?
Yes, of course, I am satisfied with my role, but I want to be a wordmaster.
A wordmaster next time. Settled. Now, Anton, your idea?
I'm very satisfied with the job of summarize, and I find it very interesting to find from the big text useful things and to make a short summary.
So, are you satisfied with the work of your discussion leader?
Yes. No doubt.
No doubt. That's great. And you?
Yes, of course. She was great. She was perfect today.
So, was Sasha helpful?
Yes, she ruled our discussion as a good driver.
That's it. So quite right. So she may be so speak of in the parliament, perhaps. Yulia, the same with you. But Sasha, nevertheless, which role would you like to play next time?
I think I would like to play a role of a passage person. Because being a discussion leader, although it is very interesting, it is quite difficult.
Is it a bit stressful?
Yes, it is.
It is a bit stressful. Yulia, your impressions, and again the same question, which role would you like to play next time?
I agree with Sash, and I also think that it's also difficult to guide the discussion, to keep it going. But next time, I hope I will play the role of culture collector or a connector.
So, thank you so much for your discussion, and next time we're going to read another book by one of the Bronte sisters. It is going to be Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and I'm quite sure that we will find still another nice chapter for our next discussion. So thank you so much. Let's move on.